Welcome. I'm Halcyon, and this is Hug Nation. Today I want to talk about dark corona clouds and silver linings. I do not want to pretend that there is not reason to have negative experiences, emotions, thoughts right now. It would be irrational. It would be psychopathic to not have elements of loss and grief, not just about people, but aspects of our way of life. We are living in a world that is different and will forever be different. Perhaps time will tell how much of things of old return and how much evolves, changes. I keep thinking about, am I going to look back at, my 40s, my 30s with these fond memories of, remember when we used to be able to just hug strangers? Or in the same way that when I was growing up during the AIDS crisis, I used to go, man, I wish I grew up pre-AIDS when there was all this free love. Man, I miss that. And I wonder if what I did grow up will be considered to be a free love in comparison to where we're headed. So there is lots to be worried about, lots to be concerned about, lots to grieve. And feeling whatever feelings there is to feel, I think, is part of moving through this and healing and growing and accepting what the new reality is. However, I think one of the critical aspects of the right now is maintaining balance and optimism with our thoughts and our focus. Right now I'm seeing so many examples of beauty in the world, of kind hearts, of giving, and it's so energizing and encouraging. I think in a lot of ways there is this desire that we have inside us to be better, to be more giving, more loving, to be more generous. But we have this cultural pressure not to. There's almost this fear of being taken advantage of. So when we see someone struggling, we kind of look away embarrassingly instead of trying to help. But in a circumstance that we're going through right now, people shift. And that shackles of status quo have been shaken off. And we can process and deal with and respond from a deeper, truer, more compassionate humanity that's inside us. So what if we potentially get taken advantage of? Who do you want to be right now? So there's all these silver linings to what's going on. And while I'm acknowledging there's challenges and difficulties, whether it's health-wise, financial, social, there's a lot. While we know that is going to be a part of things, don't let our minds fall into that momentum too deeply. Very soon we're going to be having news of examples of desperation, of maybe even violence. And the news is going to eat that up. And we are going to be having these teeny tiny examples of horrible things are going to be shoved in our faces constantly. And it's going to take us to not look at the car crash and go, yeah, that may have happened, but look at how kind people are being in my neighborhood. Look at all the people that are sharing. Look at all of the compassion that I'm seeing in the world. And I want to be a part of that compassion. And I'm not going to let this narrative of the negative become my world. One of the gifts of this experience that we're going through is that everything has been shaken up. So it's almost like we're all traveling. We're all in a new land. And when you go traveling, one of the magnificent things about it is that you can't take anything for granted. When you're in a new country, the streetlights are different, the language is different, sometimes even the night sky is different. And when everything is different, you notice little details. and you start to really appreciate things that you take for granted in your default life. And we're in that right now. We are now traveling in our default world. We are taking a new perspective, new lens to things that we've been in the middle of for maybe our whole lives. And that perspective allows us to redefine and reappreciate and takes our baseline of what we think is amazing and bring it down, down, down. Anyone else had a recalibration of their gratitude? The grocery store has eggs. Woohoo! There's eggs. Woohoo! As opposed to maybe a year ago when you're like, sure, there's 12 types of eggs here, but the brand that I like, they're out of it. Man, fuck my life. Full confession, I have had some pessimism nagging at me over the last few years. I feel like the trajectory of humanity leads me into a state of despair sometimes with the environment and certain aspects of social justice and inequality and oppression, and just feeling like our trajectory is not good. And every time humanity gets a chance to redirect, we don't take the opportunity. We're too in our groove of maintaining the status quo of how things have always been. But we now live in a world where everything is shaken up. And things that used to be too crazy, too radical, suddenly are almost mandatory. You know, a few months ago, the idea of universal basic income was, kind of a radical idea starting to be discussed. Now, to survive this crisis, we are absolutely going to have to embrace aspects of socialized help that was too extreme for people ingrained in a more conservative viewpoint to accept. So who knows what kind of radical shifts humanity can make during this opportunity. And again, not to say that there isn't reason to be concerned. But I also think there's a need to be realistic that for us, meaning humanity, for the Western cultures to get to a place of change, there has to be difficulty. The path has to go through some rocky points. It's like you don't go from, you don't have a baby without labor pain. A butterfly does not happen from a caterpillar without a chrysalis and the dissolving of what was. And there's this huge opportunity from a macro level, from an economic level, from a cultural level, from an individual level right now. When everything is blown apart, we get to decide, do we want to put it back the way it was? When everything is kind of working, we don't have the incentive to do hard work and looking at ourselves and looking at our culture. Because, hey, things are working, right? But now we have to make some decisions. We have to make some choices. We have to prioritize. And in that prioritizing, we can decide, oh, you know what? I don't want to keep doing this the way it was. I don't want to keep this habit. I don't want to keep this relationship. I don't want to keep this trajectory of my life. I don't want to keep this trajectory of our entire system. Without the incentive to do so, we would never get there. This is a rock bottom of sorts. But instead of what the addiction of our culture isn't a substance or gambling, but capitalism, profit, greed. And perhaps we will have a moment of clarity. One thing that I've been thinking about a lot is how much of what's going on for me overlaps to lessons from Burning Man. In fact, in the evening gathering that I did earlier in the week, it's every night, but earlier in the week, I was so excited to have a visit from Danger Ranger, one of the founders of Burning Man. And he brought up the fact that burners have been training and practicing cultural behaviors that are going to be integrated on the other side of this crisis.
I think what Burning Man is doing, what we are all doing, is I think preparing for a kind of future that we're going to see after this crisis is past the planet.
And there's something, that I've been working with a lot in recent years of how to integrate the behaviors that we have at Burning Man, the interpersonal relationships. How do we integrate that into a default world? Because at Burning Man, you have this incredibly supportive environment where when you are giving, when you are loving, when you are expressive, everybody's like, yay, we love that, keep doing that. But when you get to the default world, you don't have that support so much. You can have judgment, you have all these pressures and voices that are trying to push you back into the grooves of the status quo. Status quo. Although status quo would be a great name for a comic book character. What does status quo say to do? Status quo says, "Caw-caw! Don't you change. Keep doing it the way it's been." I don't know, status quo. But the default world is not very encouraging. And so to continue being open-hearted, to continue being giving and expressive in the default world requires tremendous courage. And people experience the decompression blues because it's often feels impossible to continue being that vibrant, bright example of who you truly are in a world that is not welcoming to that. But what I've been working on in my coaching and my groups is to work together collectively to support one another so that we can continue to do that, even when it's hard. It's easy at Burning Man. That's where we have the support. That's the scrimmage. We kind of build up our muscles and practice, and then we get the default world, and it's fucking hard. And we got to step up and be love warriors. Look our neighbors in the eye. Say thank you and give and sing and risk someone rolling their eyes and judging us. That is the warrior path. And I feel like we've been training for now. Now we need to all be love warriors. We need to look for the opportunities to be expressive, to be loving, to be giving, to, as we have this disarray, be the role models of what we can be. We're open, we're ripe, we're ready to try new things. So let's make the new thing be our best. With generosity, with kindness, with giving, with free expression. This new reality has been a recalibrator of what has value. Your fancy car doesn't mean anything. Your cool name brand bag doesn't mean anything. Basic survival things matter. Integrity matters. And so as the world gets more difficult, as it is going to happen, we need to remember, who do I want to be in this world? And that question is the same as it's always been. And when we can spend some time with the time that we have now, asking that question, who am I? Who do I want to be? Who am I? Who do I want to be? Then we can apply that answer to whatever world is out there. I've been working with my coach to develop my vision, my mission statement, my vision for the world. And I've committed to announcing that today. My mission, my vision for the world is I am committed to creating a world that is connected, loving, and celebrates its citizens. I am committed to creating a world that is connected, loving, and celebrates its citizens. That's what I was dedicated to 2 months ago. That's what I'm dedicated to today. The way that expresses itself 2 months ago is different. Now I look at the world, how can I be that person today? So I'm hosting online gatherings. I am reaching out to friends. I am looking for ways to see and celebrate the people in this world. What are you dedicated to? Find that answer, and then as the world changes around us, you still know what to do. There is a real danger to taking the world for granted, to falling into a groove, to finding yourself living a life that is unexamined and passive. We have this amazing opportunity right now. Not an opportunity, it is mandatory. We cannot be passive right now. We have to be active in some way. We have to make some choices. We have to change our behavior. So why not make those changes in the direction of your self-identity, your values, your mission, so that whatever happens, you feel and you know that you are being true to yourself, in your purpose, and an agent of what matters to you. From that place, you can sleep well, you can welcome whatever comes, you can have faith that you are creating the ripples in the world that you are made to create. There's some dark clouds and silver linings. I hope that we can stay connected. I hope that you join me at noon, at 6 every day. I hope that you find ways to share your ripples and you share them with me and with the world. Now is the time when we go inward, find our truth, and shine that light as bright as possible. Who knows? We are in a place right now where we have no idea what is coming. So it's okay to spend some time with concern, with preparation, but recognize that your imagination that is imagining these futures, you can imagine the ones that are catastrophic, and you can imagine the ones that are miraculous, utopian. I'll meet you in utopia. Thank you. I love you. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe on YouTube and join me live every day at noon Pacific at zoom.hugnation.com. We'll have a gratitude circle and connect during these wacky times. I encourage all Americans to cheer out their window every night at 6 o'clock Pacific, 9 o'clock Eastern. Cheer for the healthcare professionals and all those that are making society continue to run. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Out the windows, clap, 6 o'clock, just like the Europeans are doing. And then join me during or right after at zoom.hugnation.com for an online gathering of connection, faces, laughter, and gratitude.